Hello. Can you believe it's episode number 70 already of this? I was just noticing that. Welcome to the Security Weekly News wrap-up for the week of 27 September. The debate, Microsoft and 911, and more Microsoft, Pinchy Spider, Twitch debates, Emotet. All this and more on this episode of Security Weekly News wrap-up.
This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week, your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for Security Weekly News. Do you know where your organization's crown jewel data is, whose data it is, what it contains, and if it's flagged, tagged, and classified accurately? Defense in Depth requires Discovery in Depth. At Big ID, they help organizations uncover dark data, classify sensitive and regulated data, meet compliance requirements, and take action for data on-prem, in the cloud, and everywhere in between. Learn more about how Discovery in Depth can change the way enterprise organizations find, classify, and protect sensitive data at securityweekly.com/Big ID. The question is simple. Have any of the systems on my network been compromised? The answer is harder than it should be. Enter AI Hunter. Active Countermeasures has automated and streamlined techniques used by the best pen testers and threat hunters in the industry to create AI Hunter, a network threat hunting solution that does the first pass of a hunt for you to identify systems that are most likely to be compromised and scores the results on a scale from 0 to 100. You can then research those systems in depth with AI Hunter. Focus your valuable time on the systems that need your expertise with AI Hunter. Sign up for a personal demo today at securityweekly.com/ACM.
All right, a new set. Wow, it's like we have new mics, new sets, new headsets. It's like a whole new day. I'm Doug White. I'll be your host for this episode of Security Weekly News Wrap-Up Show. Let's wrap up all the show topics for the week. I did want to mention that the Providence Business News and the Tech Collective Cybersecurity Virtual Summit will go from 9 to 11 Eastern Daylight Time on the 7th of October. The summit will have 3 breakout sessions on leadership, professional, and small business topics. Me, myself, and I will be moderating the professional one called Ransomware, the Next Step in the Kill Chain, where our experts are going to talk about GPOs and VMs and how all that stuff's involved. So, but, go check that link out on the wiki if you are interested. That one is free next week. On Application Security Weekly number 123, Mike, Matt, and John had a host segment where they could talk about the differences between finding vulnerabilities and securing applications. I thought this was a really nice segment because they were really looking at the OWASP top 10 and other major threats, and how looking at all these threats can actually help you develop better AppSec, which is something we've all been saying for a long, long time, and I'm a big fan of the idea of maybe we should be looking at it as developers more, and that may give us ideas on how better to deal with our own stuff. I know it's like one more thing to add to your day, but as a developer, but still, it's really important that you build better apps. On Business Security Weekly number 189, Paul, Jason, and Matt talk with Ryan Benson, the Director of Offerings at Deepwatch. The focus of this segment was all about managed detection and response versus managed security service providers. The overlap and the differences in these approaches with the on-site MDRs versus the selected data that you send off-site to MSSPs. So if you're starting to think about these types of services and you're getting hit with a lot of ads and information, this is a really good segment if you want to learn some more about the differences between buying a full stack in-house on-prem versus pushing stuff off to the cloud and what the advantages are of those. In a second segment, they covered 6 types of CISOs and the companies that they thrive in. I don't think I had a type on there because they left out like lazy, people that, don't lazy know-it-alls or something. there may be a category for me on there. I'm not sure. On the Security Weekly News number 67, Jason Wood talked about Pinchy Spider and their recruiting efforts as ransomware as a service becomes more prevalent. And I'm going to talk about that a little more later. On Security and Compliance Weekly number 44, Jeff, John, Josh, and Scott talked with Liam Downward, the CEO of Charisma. they were talking about something I also have a lot of interest in, which is how do you even know where all your sensitive data is located and how accountability for that data gets assigned in meeting all your compliance rules. I was having a conversation with a client the other day, just talking about, one of the first things they needed to do was, where is it all? And which data is important. So as you start trying to reach compliance goals, it's really critical that you start figuring out where's my data, what's my data, and which data really matters and who has access to it. So it's definitely worth a listen to that. The second segment with Liam revolved around a Discord discussion that was on their board last week during the show, which they decided to title Vulnerability Management and the Art of Prioritization of Risk. So, again, it should be interesting. I'm really sorry on that one, guys. I didn't get a chance to listen to that one yet because I got a phone call. I downloaded it. I was going to listen to it in the car, but I didn't get a chance to listen. I'll listen to it later. But you should check it out. It sounds like a good one. On Paul's Security Weekly number 668 last night, the first segment was Paul discussing his process for creating Dockers running Nginx, or however you say that. I don't know how you say it. Nginx is how you say it. I always get it. I know how to say it, and I can't quite pronounce it. It's like saying Run in China. Yeah, exactly. The demon kind of thing that Paul and I always have. Bind versus Bendy. SQL versus SQL, ACL versus ACL. There's a lot of them, but that one I actually know how you say it. But Nginx is how you're supposed to say it, but then I always see it and I say it wrong because I get that Vietnamese thing going, and it's like, yeah. But anyway, how you use Nginx as an RTMP proxy for video streaming to multiple outlets, which is something Paul does a lot of and is sort of one of the world's masters of that. So if you ever wondered how they manage to do all this stuff that you see every week, here's your chance. Plus, you get a first look at the new set, which you can't really see here, but you can see Paul and Larry with it, all the booms and all this stuff. So check that out if you are viewing. Chris Sanders, the founder of Applied Network Defense and Rural Technology Fund, was the guest on the second segment. And they were talking about something, again, they had a lot of great topics this week. They always do, though, that I'm interested in, about honeypots. And so talking about honeypots and using honeypots and all this is a lot of fun. And we've all, if you're in the security segment, at some point you've thought about putting up a honeypot or have put one up. And there's a lot of ins and outs of that. I certainly have built more than a couple myself. So check that one out. And of course, they had the news. My favorite threat of the week is going to have to be critical infrastructure. I know it's already a mess. So critical infrastructure has always been problematic, all the way back to just physical security days when there was no internet. Critical infrastructure was a mess. As service-oriented organizations are always underfunded, understaffed, outdated, and back in the early part of the millennium when things were all new and shiny, some of us paranoids were already starting to cast aspersions on this newfangled interweb thing and what kind of problems this might start. And I know that I started working with EMA, the state-level emergency management, and I also worked with FEMA, and basically scared the hell out of them because I was talking about hacking power plants, hacking stoplights, hacking soda machines, hacking water valves, and we started talking about how that was doable, and it really seemed to make people start to get a little nervous and uncomfortable, and they didn't want to talk about it very much. And it took some years before that you saw them start to move in the direction. And I saw this happening from the inside because it was like kind of that initial meeting you had in Washington, D.C., and you started talking about some of these things that you could do to SCADA systems and ICS systems and OT and all this stuff, and them looking at you like, yeah, but you weird nerds are always dreaming up stuff that's not going to really happen, to them actually starting to get nervous and coming back and asking questions. Because they sort of moved from that no one can hack this because we're not connected to no one can hack anything here except maybe that vending machine in the lobby and it's not really a threat, to we have drones flying around the property for security. They aren't a threat, right? To, what if we moved a lot of our services into the cloud? That's an improvement, right? Well, on Monday, 14 states had a 911 outage that lasted for several hours. If you aren't in the United States, and where we do things a little different, 911 is like 999 and other emergency service numbers that can easily be dialed for assistance. And in fact, it's one of the most critical infrastructures that we actually have, since most of us probably no longer know the number of whatever kind of help you need to call. When I was a kid, we had the number of what was called the rescue squad or something that was like on the refrigerator. So if you had a fire or you needed an ambulance or whatever, you called the rescue squad and they would come get you. But then all that changed to 911. The outage seemed to have stemmed from Intrado and Lumen, which are the two major 911 handling companies in the United States. And they had some kind of communication problem on Azure. So here we go, infrastructure moving into the cloud. It did not seem to be a fault of Azure as much as it was a fault between these two. I did post an article on the wiki, but the point of all this is we really do need to be thinking about how much we rely on these critical services and how dependent we are on known information and our ability to look up info on the fly. I was in Paris not too long ago with my daughter, and we were walking down the street, and we realized that if we lost our phones, we didn't even know the address of where we were staying. And we had an apartment, and I was like, we don't know the address of that. Did you memorize that? Because I used to memorize all that stuff, when I used to travel, and I would, But wait till you try, to talk to the French gendarmes about, the fact that you don't know the address of the place you're staying. Yeah, I bet that'll go over big. Although I have never had any problem in France with anybody being nasty to me, except a waiter once who was kind of rude because of my French pronunciation. But, what are you going to do? Same thing in New York. All right. So, and now the news. NPCAP 1.00 was released on Monday. Yay. That means that Nmap is going to probably release a new version soon. Gordon Lyon, Fyodor, who's the founder of Nmap and was also the founder of the NPCAP library, which has been a stable and reliable tool for a long time, is putting out a new version of that tool. And of course, that will affect most of the tools that you currently use for grabbing packets, who all use that library. So whether it's Wireshark or something else, almost all of them use that NPCAP library. So be on the lookout probably for new versions of your favorite tools that owe their functionality to NPCAP. And you can get NPCAP 1.00 from npcap.org, but I would advise you to be sure and check out the implications if you replace your current version of NPCAP. But I haven't read all the details of that because I have not replaced mine yet, but I will soon. So if you need the new version or you want it, you can get it off their site. The source code for Windows XP was apparently leaked last week. There's a 43 gigabyte collection of Microsoft source code that is on 4chan forum. That's called Microsoft Source Code Forum. And basically, apparently, Windows XP was leaked as a torrent on this forum last week. That makes me a little nervous. You see a torrent on 4chan that's purporting to give you something you might like to look at. It makes you a little bit nervous. I have not looked at it or downloaded it, but it was apparently there. The 4chan forum, if you're interested, does have DOS. I think it has DOS 3.1. It has DOS 6, which by then was DOS really DOS anymore. Windows 2000, Windows NT, Server 2003, and on. Along with there's apparently a lot of collection of, and I'm going to have to go look at this, elaborate conspiracy theory about Bill Gates. Bleeping Computer did say that they have this source code, but they can neither confirm nor deny if it is the original XP source code or if it's been modified in some way. I guess they haven't had a chance to look at all the hashes and everything. Apparently, Bill Gates' Gmail account is hard-coded into the XP original. It's DOSmaster69 with the password bros before hose. I made that part up. Yeah, I don't think that's actually in there. But if you don't know what lemon party means, you probably shouldn't look any of those things up. So just don't Google that. Yeah, or do. But you'll probably be sorry if you do. Microsoft 365 was out on Monday for about 6 hours after an update brought the now renamed Office 365, which is called Microsoft 365 Services, to a halt. There have not been a lot of details yet about what actually caused the outage, but it was global. It affected everyone who was not already logged into Microsoft 365. So you can start trying to guess what it might have been from there. If you weren't logged in, you were not able to do so until they rolled back an update and got back online. But this caused a lot of problems for a lot of companies, but Microsoft later said that the rollback didn't really help. and systems started coming back online, but they weren't exactly sure what the problem was, other than it did not appear to be the result of malicious activity. So I'm sure we'll hear more about this in the coming days. Larry put up a really cool Showdown real-time interface link on the show, on the Security Weekly show last night. I put it on the wiki again because it is actually really cool. If you have never don't know what Showdown is, I was talking about this actually after the show last night. I was talking about this to somebody, and they said, "What is Showdown?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, this is definitely something you want to check out." So I thought I'm going to mention this on the news. It is okay to Google Showdown, by the way. But basically, Showdown, if you aren't familiar with it, and most of you probably are, but it's a search engine, but it's not like a regular search engine. Showdown is a search engine that uses TCP and other protocols to look for devices on the internet. So it uses the same kind of strategies that search engines use to go out and walk, and like these, what they used to call spiders, to go out and look for data. But Showdown goes out and looks for devices. So Showdown collects all this info about different devices that are exposed to the internet, and then allows you to search through them using filters and so forth. You just want to find, Cisco routers, you just want to find web servers or whatever it is you're looking for. It was launched in 2009 by John Matherly, but basically fulfills that role as a search engine. The one Larry put up was just basically flipping through different devices and showing you what they are. It's a really nice site if you want to go check it out. But people use this to find, open SCADA controllers and all kinds of things. If you haven't seen Showdown, I did put the link there, so you should check it out. It's pretty cool. The ubiquitous web browser Padlock that you are familiar with is probably not really trustable. It is trustable for what it's supposed to be. It's just not trustable the way people trust it. This Threat Post article I put up talks about how we place way too much trust in this Padlock. So APWG, which is the Anti-Phishing Working Group, released a report that I also attached that basically was looking at all the large upticks in phishing that have occurred during the COVID pandemic, and found that, bad guys also can put TLS security on their bad guy websites, right? I mean, TLS is not restricted to just good people. And basically, the padlock just means that TLS keys are being used, and so your data between you and that website is being encrypted, so HTTPS. But the padlock means that the TLS is in place. It does not mean that the site is somehow verified by some mystery group somewhere, which I have actually had people say that to me, that the padlock means that it's verified by the Illuminati or something. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. It just means that it has TLS running. And people go, what? I thought that padlock meant that it was only, it was a verified, trustworthy site. No, it's not. I know most of you already know this, but I wanted to bring it up because you might want to share this information out with your users, because phishing attacks, continue to happen, and they get more sophisticated all the time, and they count on, misinformation like the padlock means it's not phishing. That was what the person said to me that asked me that. They said, the padlock means it's not a phishing site, right? And I was like, no, it just means it's a secured phishing site. So all of the scam will actually be encrypted between you and them. So when they steal your information and ransomware you'll know it was done with a padlock in place. That can bring us back around to Jason's report on Security Weekly News about Pinchy Spider. He was talking about how Revil, which is the other name for Pinchy Spider, or maybe that's their official name. I'm not sure which one's the official name. But they were trying to recruit people. And so they put up $1 million deposit as proof that that the recruiting is legit, that they're a legit organization who can afford to give you, your share of the spoils. I mean, basically cybercrime is starting to go public, and hacker groups and ransomware groups are all starting to be business oriented. So they're probably like sending people off from the hacker community to go get MBAs from, like Harvard or something, so that they can learn. Like in The Wire. You remember how Stringer Bell in The Wire was, like going to night school so he could get an MBA so he could be a better drug dealer? Yeah, kind of like that. Ransomware often now has help desk links, so you can get assistance to pay for the ransom, or how, I don't know how to get Bitcoin, but I would really like to. So, content, help is standing by if you don't know how to get Bitcoin to pay your ransom. And Revil is no exception because I guess they need recruits. In the job markets, it's hard to get good people. And the old days of Henry Hill sweeping up the gangster's restaurant and ending up part of the mafia just don't really work in the global gig economy. So maybe there's going to be some kind of gig hack service where you can just use your phone to say, I need a hacker. And, there's hackers standing by to accept a ride. 5 stars. Fluffy Butt 27 really took down my school in record time. Would definitely hire again. 1 star. Dracor Noir 19. Not only cracked my bank, but instead of depositing all the money in my account, they cleaned me out. Would not use again. Yeah. Okay, I know. I got a little off there. So an email purporting to be from the Democratic National Committee on Thursday is a Word document which contained, you guessed it, macros. The infected document, of course, contained Emotet. Emotet is a nasty malware framework that, again, in the same ransomware as a service kind of model, is started to be used and repurposed over and over again and is available for sale on the dark web. It is also available to be repurposed for you if you just tell them what you need. So obviously other people are doing this. Emotet often is ransomware, and it started out in that realm, but today it's become a full-blown framework that can include things like Qbot or the Trick Trojan, other botnets, whatever you want. They'll put it together for you, and come on down, because today only, for only $9.99, we will configure your Emotet the way you want. This email has the subject line Team Blue Take Action. And I would expect this activity to continue as the United States gets closer to the November 3rd election day. Emotet itself in the past has not been particularly political, so I think this is just more ransomware as a service. Somebody bought it and had it set up so they could send out this phishing email targeting people. So as these things become more standardized and business-oriented, I have certainly played around with Emotet a lot and looked at its sources a lot, and it is capable of delivering and scripting whatever you want as payloads, a la TrickBot type stuff from the past. So I would expect a lot of election hijinks on all sides before November 3rd. So you may want to advise your users about, reacting to hot button emails they get. After the dumpster fire debate on Tuesday, a lot of people were rushing to donate to either side, and that seems like a pretty good timing for a phishing attack. I mean, a subject line like Congressman Pigger caught in livestock molesting scheme would probably get a lot of clicks. We all know how clickbait works at this point. And finally, it's interesting to watch change and be there when it occurs. There was a shocking, well, at least in my parents' generation, word, shit show, which was used for the first time on CNN on Tuesday night. But that's not the point. The point is that despite the tradition of watching these things on television with the family, basically Twitch saw hundreds of thousands of views of the debate, with streamers actually watching and live streaming the debate and, of course, making snarky comments about it. This kind of viewing, as most of us know, is very popular and different than the tradition of huddling around the radio while FDR or Churchill makes a heartfelt speech that inspires everyone. Instead, it's Mystery Science Theater 3000, which is okay with me because I love Mystery Science Theater 3000, and all that's what got me in trouble with my dad in the first place. Remember the moon landing in 1969? Norman Rockwell painting, like the whole family is huddled around our 10-inch black and white TV, ready to burst into the national anthem as Neil Armstrong sets foot on the moon for the first time. And some kid, asking for a friend, says, "I wonder how they pee." Yeah, old school pootie pie stuff. So, I doubt my 90-year-old mother watched a Twitch stream of the debate filled with snarky comments and swears, but I kind of like the idea. And that's the news wrap-up for the week of 27 September 2020 in the time of plague. I'm Doug White from the already online cybersecurity program at Roger Williams University. I'll see you next week on the network that never shuts down. Register to vote and vote. I don't care who you vote for, but vote, really.